Hello and welcome back to the Douyu Dota 2 Cup here on HeflaTV 1. This is going to be a two-game series, Terrorblade versus Tongfu. I'm Grandis V, joined once again by More Rage, please. As far as both of these teams are concerned, Tongfu looking hot after their series up against Energy Pacemaker, and in general, Terrorblade are just not a very reliable team. Sometimes they make good rotations, but they're very prone to getting outplayed in the laning stage. Honestly, my hope for them is very low. As much as I want them to win.
It is for me as well, and I feel like you touched upon it best. Is that it's not really the late game decision making that works, or that has been the worst facet of their gameplay for me. It's more that they never really make it to the late game. So hopefully they're able to withstand the laning stage, and perhaps we are able to see a little bit of their potential later on into these games. But definitely one of the underdogs coming into the tournament. Tongfu, quite the opposite, expected to be right up there, and taking down EP 2-0 in the last series certainly bodes well for their chances.
A lot of core hate coming up from the first couple bans. Queen of Pain, Gyrocopter, and Leshrac will be taken out, and this is going to leave Clockwork Stormspear for Tongfu. That's a very scary initiating core coming out from them, but that said, Terrorblade get their hands on the Shadow Fiend, so they're not lacking any power on their side, and they'll follow that up with an Earthshaker. As far as this draft is concerned, this is looking very standard. The only difference is that usually you'd see the Clockwork Storm on the Dire side, and the Radiant team would have the Shadow Fiend Earthshaker. Clockwork has a much easier laning phase on the Dire side, can block the creeps very well, and Shadow Fiend would much rather have the Radiant jungle. But that said, I think these first couple picks are fairly even for both teams.
Yeah, it definitely looks like there's a little bit of onus on TB to go towards that ease of execution type of lineup. Definitely something tried, tested, and true in this SFES opening. And against a Storm Spirit mid lane, Shadow Fiend should fare very well, especially if there's a little bit of early help there from his Earthshaker. So I expect TB to do decently well, at least in that mid lane. For now, definitely some self-sufficient laners in the Clockwork over in the off lane, and the Storm Spirit for U9 in that mid lane. U9 very effective on this Storm, much like his Queen of Pain. He is really good at just tempo controlling and initiating for his side.
Yeah, absolutely. As far as the next couple bans are concerned, Tongfu are actually going to be the team to ban out the Rubik. Defensively against Clockwork, Rubik would have been a really nice pick, but I'm a little bit surprised. Honestly, I would have thought that Tongfu would pick up the Rubik themselves and ban out the Lion.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see that come out as well. So a little interesting that they give a little bit of priority over to the Rubik. They're very interesting ban from TB here. They're going to take away the Juggernaut from Tongfu's side, and not a hero that's considered super strong recently. I guess he's a little less susceptible to a Requiem death with the Blade Fury available, and is a hero that can kind of dodge the manning up with the ability to Omni Slash there. But yeah, it's an interesting choice for TB to remove. We'll see if their next few picks are going to explain that. PL going to be taken out of the pool by Tongfu.
Yeah, and I think in general, Tongfu's bans look a little bit more stable, but as far as their next pick is concerned, I think picking up the Lion is somewhat of a deny pick away from Terrorblade is probably pretty wise here. Storm Spirit really hates being up against the mass amount of disable that would come from Earthshaker Lion support duo, but yeah, there's still a world of opportunity for them. Tongfu, although they have the initiation down pat, they have a lot of room to work with these next couple of picks.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see any of those self-sufficient supports come out for TB. The Lion, you mentioned, a very good one. I feel like the Disruptor could do a little bit of work. Definitely a bit of a weak laner, but not bad versus the Clockwork. Even the Skywrath Mage, not bad versus the Clockwork as well as the Storm Spirit. So maybe some silence comes out for TB there. Crystal Maiden pickup comes out for Tongfu. This is going to allow the Clockwork to be a little bit more aggressive in his lane with a couple points in Arcane Aura, and also going to allow the Crystal Maiden to be in and out of lane, rotating into the jungle, not necessarily needing to stack and pull as she can jungle just with that 1 point in Frostbite. So I don't mind this pickup from Tongfu. It's not something we see all that often, but it can be very strong, especially with that Storm Spirit benefiting from the Arcane Aura as well.
Yeah, absolutely, and it makes Clockwork's laning phase a lot easier. When able to spam out those flares, even in a difficult lane, Clockwork can still get quite a bit out of it, and in general, it's a pretty threatening hero. That is, if the Shadow Fiend Bloodseeker don't get their hands on the Crystal Maiden, she is incredibly squishy. One fissure into double raise is going to kill the Crystal Maiden throughout the majority of this game, in all honesty. Tongfu would probably be better suited to go aggressive with the CM pick, or at the very least just get a lot of jungle farm with her.
Yeah, definitely once they get that level 6 on the Storm Spirit and the Clockwork, they look for them to cue the aggression, as you mentioned. Speaking of which, Bloodseeker pickup comes out for TB. This has been a very popular hero in the meta, but not so much in the Eastern scene as much as we have seen it elsewhere. So interesting to see TB pick it up here. Still, their lineup looks pretty damn good in terms of ease of execution. The Yule Scepter, if it is picked up by either of these heroes, does synergize pretty well with both the Requiem and the Blood Right. So a lot of burst comes out for TB here. Naga picks coming out for Tongfu. Do you expect this to be a core Naga? It's generally not the greatest up against the Earthshaker, buffing up that Echo Slam a bit, but the Diffusal Blade could prove pretty effective here. And of course, up against Blade Mail carriers, Illusion Heroes are pretty damn good.
I think this is a farming Naga. That is only if Terrorblade don't pick up the Undying, which has been left in the pool, surprisingly enough. If there isn't a Undying on the enemy side, I think the support Naga Siren gets a lot more attractive. At the moment, Terrorblade's initiation isn't really something that you need a Naga Siren to get yourself out of.
Yeah.
If it was something like a Magnus RP or a Ravage or something big like that, maybe then the Naga Siren as support comes out as a pick, but yeah, I think it's a pretty good read that this should be a farming core Naga. An absolute nuisance when you have so many heroes to make map space for in the Storm Spirit clock.
Yeah, Naga not too worried about the Bloodseeker either. Can just sing TP out when she's ruptured, even just throw a net and TP out. So they are going to need more support on top of that BS. They are going to opt for the Lion here, as you mentioned earlier. So lots of Disable available to this support duo of TB, and definitely look for them to get aggressive on the back of that Bloodseeker. Still a lot of ways to deal with it for Tongfu right now. So I feel like, as you mentioned, that Crystal Maiden certainly could become food for Terrorblade, but the other targets aren't necessarily ideal for the toolkit for Terrorblade. If they're able to initiate perhaps with this line, then the Storm Spirit could be in a little bit of danger. But other than that, the Clockwork pretty damn survivable. The Naga has the Sleep TP if need be. And of course, the Ball Lightning going to keep Storm Spirit safe more often than not.
With the Naga pick, the Lion gets even more attractive too. With 2 ways to instantly kill off those illusions later in the game, that can be a really big deal. But yeah, let's take a look at what these 5th picks could be. For Tongfu, there's still a reasonable amount of flexibility. If they wanted to, and want to shift gears into a support Naga Siren, which is a definite possibility, they could pick up a farmer and probably be pretty comfortable in doing so, as long as that hero is strong in the lane. So yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. So it's going to be very interesting to see what Terrorblade ban. As far as Tongfu's ban is concerned, they'll take out the Darkseer. Again, it's probably going to be a Naga Siren in the safe lane position.
I don't mind the Spirit Breaker for TB here. There's definitely a couple of heroes that aren't certainly ideal up against him, but it does synergize decently well with their aggressively natured lineup. It's also a pretty tanky offlaner early on. Depending on this last support pick, you generally won't see this farming Naga skill up net, so I feel like this Spirit Breaker should be okay to survive in lane, charging out from that one Frostbite.
Yeah, it's going to be a Clinks actually for Tongfu. Okay, so this makes the game a lot more interesting. It's not going to be a Naga farm fest, although later in the game, maybe she'll transition if they get enough farm, but instead we're going to have a very aggressive lineup coming out from Tongfu. Between Crystal Maiden and Clinks, these are heroes we don't get the pleasure of seeing very often, but I'm, for one, pretty hyped. The Clinks and the Crystal Maiden are capable of so much damage inside this game. Terrorblade will go ahead and pick up the Spirit Breaker. Honestly, Terrorblade's lineup is a little bit more stable and a little bit more safe, but I really can see Tongfu snowballing out of control. If we get a fast Orchid for the Storm or the Clinks and then like a Desolator to follow, these heroes are just going to melt.
Yeah, I do worry for this Clinks pick. I feel like it's a little bit indicative of how confident Tongfu are in their abilities, rolling with momentum perhaps, maybe knowing that TB is a little bit of weaker competition as well, and they are going to run kind of this Clinks into not the best scenario. There's a couple extra disables. He's not great against Blade Mail early on, which typically we will see a Bloodseeker build, and a little bit of the tankier heroes, but definitely can look to snowball alongside his Clockwork and his Storm Spirit and do some work.
Well, to introduce the lineups for either side, it's going to be a Bloodseeker, presumably farming safe by Sox. Ayun going to be playing on the line, and the other support's going to be an Earthshaker for their team. 164 is going to be handling the Shadow Fiend. Spirit Breaker will be handling the offlane.
Yeah, and over on the Radiant side, we have U9 going to be picking up his Storm Spirit towards the mid lane. Very capable hands there. Safe lane, we're going to have Kabu on the Crystal Maiden. LPC going to accompany him on the support Naga. That'll leave Jin Q on the one position Clinks. And finally, towards the off lane, Zex Bingo on the Clockwork. Look for him to make quite a few plays here. He's definitely one of the better tier 2 players on this Clockwork in the Chinese scene.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go ahead and take a quick look at our item builds. Currently, Tongfu are already completely done with purchasing their items and are running out to their lanes. It's very interesting to see the support Naga Siren open up with the Poor Man's Shield. Up against
Yeah.
the Spirit Breaker, she can trade blows pretty effectively, but there is quite a lack of health sustain between the Crystal Maiden and the Naga. Between them, they only have 3 tangos. That's very, very skimpy. Honestly, I think I would have liked to see a salve instead of the upgraded PMS.
Yeah, especially pulling over the couple of tangles. She's a little bit lacking in regen. Naga Siren innately very tanky effectively with the base armor, but Spirit Breaker pretty much the same, has a little bit of extra raw HP and just about as much armor as the Naga does. So trading is not going to be a super effective way of zoning for LPC. But alongside Kabu, they should be able to get quite a bit done against the Naga Siren Spirit Breaker. Yeah, so that name for the Spirit Breaker is actually Naga Siren, if I remember correctly. So always odd to say. Naga Siren handling X hero.
Yeah, we'll just wait until Terrorblade are up and ready to go. Looks like the Earthshaker has reconnected, and we should be underway momentarily. So Tongfu will call it, and let's see how these bounty runes go for either side. Looks like it's probably just going to be a trade 1-for-1. As far as the level 1 fight is concerned, I'm honestly tempted to say that Tongfu might have the better half of it, but Terrorblade do have a lot of lockdown if they can isolate a single hero. Both of these teams are capable of getting first blood, but yeah, I'm not sure if they are going to actually commit for it.
Yeah, U9 just with the circlet early on is gonna look to find this bounty for an early bottom. Looks like both teams kind of have the same idea, dodging that top lane bounty rune, trying to find an easier bounty rune for their mid laner, but they may run into quite a skirmish early on. 164 has opted for the early Wraith Band, so trying to secure that lead in mid lane and should be able to do so once he gets a couple of souls up. U9 definitely a little bit lacking in the range category, so Shadow Fiend typically does pretty well in the first 5 levels.
Clockwork up in the top lane. Looks like he might have to fight the Bloodseeker for this rune, but with Cogs, I think Clockwork should be able to secure it. All eyes on bottom, I'm pretty sure, and that also looks like it's a pretty Tongfu favored matchup just based on the positioning of these heroes. Now that they bring in the Lion and the Shadow Fiend, looks like Clockwork's going to have a much harder time. He'll walk forward, he has the Cogs, he's going to commit, bouncing back the SF, and secures the bounty rune, and Zex Bingo will be able to walk that one off. That's already a slight advantage for Tongfu going into these lanes. All it costs the Clockwork is 1 tango and a little bit of mana for those Cogs.
Yeah, if I1 was there with a Earth Spike range or Hex, maybe they skill up Raise for 164 and go for that first blood, but definitely not too willing to skill that up early on. And Zex Bingo, well aware of that, is able to secure him up a bounty rune, and it's officially over, folks. GG, both bounty runes to the Radiant side.
We'll hold that thought for a little while longer. Well, everybody's going to go to the lanes. Looks like Crystal Maiden wants to just start things out in the jungle. She's going to pull the creeps over to the sidelines and kill off this Dark Troll Summoner. It's quite a good chunk of experience and gold for the CM. And honestly, I don't think she's really needed in bottom lane, especially since you look at Spirit Breaker's positioning. He's so very defensively put inside these trees. A really interesting spot for him to be in all honesty.
Yeah, Spirit Breaker, one of the heroes that can do a lot with just some levels as opposed to the farm. Farm helps as well, but if he's able to just get up maybe treads and an urn, can wreak havoc in towards this mid lane. So yeah, playing very safely up against this defensive tri-lane of Tongfu. We'll see what he's able to get done. He does throw out a charge towards Jin Q. He's going to trade a bit with the Clinks, who is a little bit squishy early on, so Jin Q does need to be careful, but rotations are coming in from LPC, and Naga Siren well aware of that with his deep, dire Observer Ward.
The Spirit Breaker now showing himself does have level 2, so even if he gets zoned out in this bottom lane, still could potentially set some kills up, even on the Storm Spirit. Prior to level 6, it's a fairly easy kill if you have both the Earthshaker and Spirit Breaker in mid. But for now, is just going to have the very difficult task of trading hits with LPC and Zincu. Between the Searing Arrows and the Poor Man's Shield start for LPC, trading hits is not really a possibility for Spirit Breaker.
Yeah, definitely. So over towards the mid lane, U9 doing very well, as we've come to expect from him, even up against what is a pretty difficult matchup early on against the Shadow Fiend. He picked up that early bottle after having the rune bottom. So
ooh, couple of bashes. Zenq, is he going to get 17%ed here? There's not enough movement speed on the Spirit Breaker to go for that next hit, and he will survive. Up in top, the rune will be secured by the Storm Spirit, and it looks like bottom lane was secured by the Naga Siren. So again, Tongfu are going to show that they have better rune control at the moment.
Zex Bingo, a very nice play from him. He's going to burn out Awan's mana, and he's going to be able to drag away this creep wave and find all of the experience from it. even allowing the creeps to do a little bit of work here. Zex Bingo already playing on the edge, but knowing that there isn't 3 supports here just yet, was able to play very aggressively there with the vision provided by this ward.
And now he's going to be forced to back off, but as you already mentioned, Clockwork's getting a lot out of this lane, and compare him at face value to the Spirit Breaker. The Spirit Breaker is forced to go back to base, it seems. Not enough mana for a charge, and no salve in his inventory, no real way to sustain himself in this lane. The Clockworker is primed to have a really scary start, and up against like an Earthshaker or a Lion, those heroes can very easily be killed off if they're isolated inside the cogs after a hookshot.
Yep, unable to deny up any farm from either of the 1 positions here. Sock's doing very well, and his laning equivalent in Jin Q doing very well as well. But definitely come to expect it here a little bit of a stagnant early game, especially considering Kabu jungling early on. But already the Crystal Maiden finding a level 3 here, and LPC being able to find some lane farm is about to hit that level 3 mark as well. So things all around looking pretty good for Tongfu.
Yeah, I think that pretty much sums it up nicely. It's going to be church down to bottom lane, but that looks like it's going to be cancelled. And Zex Bingo's sitting in the trees, but yeah, stagnant pretty much describes this laning stage. No major ability for either team to get kills unless it's set up by Terrorblade's team. And for now, it seems like they're just comfortable farming. There's going to be a Silent Circle drop down, but that doesn't connect onto Zex Bingo. The Bloodseeker was inside cogs anyway. That's not going to happen. Up and top, looks like 164 is going to find Rune. If this is a haste, maybe there's potential for a kill, but even then, it's not the easiest of rotations. And he'll find the bounty. It's a nice refill, and the bottom rune's an illusion. That's not going to set up anything either.
LPC stalking bot lane here, but with just the net, no frostbite available.
Just going to try and Bingo up in top lane to give up first blood. He has the battery cell ticking and cogs available, so that's not going to happen, but he did get cut out of position a little bit.
Yeah, the Thirst helping the BS there to try and close the gap, but battery assault level 2 doing enough work to force him back. And
net bottom. With the minus armor applied by the Nagasara, and those searing arrows are going to hurt a lot. He'll charge forward, stuns both of them. They just need a little bit more damage, but they can't find it.
It would have been nice to have the Spirit Breaker on their side for that one, but unfortunately, on the enemy team, Kabu's rotated towards the mid lane. Zex Bingo is here as well. The zip forward from U9 as he finds level 6, but the Earthspike going to connect on 2 from A1. Still should drop here, and the Raze actually going to be wayward from 164. The Fisher does block out U9 on the north side, but he's going to continue to aggress forward here onto the Shadow Fiend, who does not have the Requiem despite being level 6, and U9 going to jump forward, gets that overload charge off, but one more right click needed, and I'm unable to find it under that tier 2.
Bottom lane, they'll save the Spirit Breaker, trying to rotate onto Zinq. He'll pop the strafe. Man fighting up against Sox. The bounty, will actually go to the Bloodseekers. He kills off that Clinks. A close call for both sides. It's very uncommon to see safe laners hold TPs, but it works so very nicely for Terrorblade 5.5 minutes in. Yeah,
you definitely expect your Searing Arrows to give you a lot of work here early on, but with all those Thirst stacks up, Sock's looking very good. 3 levels in the Thirst there, the bonus damage helping him out in that man fight. And despite taking some extra damage with that Blood Rage, is able to finish off Jin Q. Very good trade for TB there in that bottom lane.
It's going to help a lot, especially considering the Spirit Breaker lives. He's now going to be very, very close to having level 5, and that's honestly more than he should have, but they're going to open up into him again. The Seeing Arrows with the minus armor is ridiculous. He'll charge straight forward into the Clinks, and again, it's going to save his life.
They need to kill these pesky trees, it seems, from the Radiant side, but Night Vision also helping out the Spirit Breaker there, and once again, he'll be able to survive. Don't know if he'll be able to stick around long enough to soak level 6 in this lane, but at least he's not killed off. Meanwhile, top lane, Zex Bingo's going to be found out. He's going to try and TP out of the cover of his cogs and should be able to do so. Very nicely played for him, waiting for the disables to be expended by that Lion, and knowing the limits of this Bloodseeker hero, and that he's got real no interrupts available to him.
That's going to be pretty important. The first usage Rupture, not getting a kill for Terrorblade. Usually that's pretty straightforward to get kills on the supports, but yeah, not going to happen today. The Crystal Maiden's been incredibly quiet this game. Found herself level 4. She's going to go ahead and play some wards. Kabu's just been jungling it up.
Yeah, the Crystal Maiden, a lot more farm than perhaps you would expect her to be, but definitely has a propensity to jump into that jungle farm. Is going to rotate it around and give the Radiant a bit of vision on the cliff there, and maybe they look to find this Spirit Breaker, who's almost found his level 6 now, but with the wave rotating under and a siege creep available to the Radiant, expect the tower push to come out with the Searing Arrows available to them as well.
Spirit Breaker's over the sidelines, so bringing the Earthshaker and Shadow Fiend. This gets very scary for the Crystal Maiden. Now that they catch vision, they're going to go forward onto the Naga Siren, but the Spirit Breaker's already down. Zinky with the Searing Arrows will kill him off, and he'll be able to invis out to safety. However, his two supports, not so lucky. Double Rays connecting onto the Crystal Maiden after the fissure, and that'll be a very easy kill onto her. LPC's giving Bloodseeker a whole truck ton of damage and is spotted out, but they won't be able to secure that. Up in top lane, TPing by the Storm. Looks like
Regen rune. Yeah, U9 has a regen rune, and they're going to have the hook shot as well. They jump in onto Sox, who's left all alone with that big rotation committed bottom by Terrorblade, and a smart reaction coming out from Tongfu. They get an offlaner for their Crystal Maiden. On top of that, they pick up the 1 position, and U9 not going to be hurting too much from this rotation as he has that regen available.
So they'll get the regen cancelled by the neutral creeps, but that's not going to matter too much. At the very least, he's farming up the stack on the enemy's side, and that's gold that he wouldn't have had otherwise.
Spirit Breaker's rotated up to the top lane as well. Not sure that Kabu is exactly scouted out this Spirit Breaker yet. Take a look at the Radiant Vision. It doesn't seem like that's the case. He's going to charge forward. TPs are inbound as well from the Bloodseeker, and the Rupture goes up onto Zexbingo. He's going to try and TP out once again. Will there be a bash in time? There will not. And with the slow as well there from the Crystal Nova, they're not able to bring down Zexbingo. And once again, he takes that Rupture and walks away.
And zip away in mid lane will keep the Storm Spirit safe. If a Hex disabled him, that could have gotten hairy for the Storm Spirit, but he'll survive. And in the meantime, with the absence of anybody in this bottom lane, Zinky and the Naga Siren will be able to very easily take down that tier 1 tower. With maxed out Searing Arrows, Clinks is doing quite a lot of damage, and they'll continue to put a little bit of chip onto this tier 2, although there's a charge coming forward. That's cancelled. The Spirit Breaker's on so low HP and mana, he couldn't have gone for it even if he wanted to.
Yeah, tier 2 eats a lot of harass over in the offlane for Terrorblade, and it just goes free the way of Xin Q and LPC. Kabu finding some space in the top lane. In the meantime, hook shot going to be landed from Zexbingo onto Sox once again. He's going to drop the Blood Right, but the Battery Assault's already popped here, and Sox with the Crystal Nova there and the Frostlight going to be kept in place. Kabu finding the last hit there, and as we mentioned early on, watch out for Zexbingo. He is really notorious for starting to make plays on his clock as soon as he picks up that hook shot, and this game's no different.
He's going to get his clarity cancelled, but with the maxed out aura running and with the wand charges, he'll keep himself sustained enough to where he can stay on the lane. At the moment, Bloodseeker can't be left alone. Clockwork's on even footing when it comes to levels compared to him, and that's very scary. Oh, Clinks, he's going to open up into the Shadow Fiend. With a little bit of help, they might be able to get this kill, but Fissure will delay that. Instead, they'll have to look for the Earthshaker pickoff. The Storm Spirit won't be able to kill off the Shadow Fiend, and it looks like Earthshaker will also survive. That is, until Naga Siren comes in with the net Riptide to secure that kill. They'll get a Rupture onto Storm. Storm continues to run, and now caught out inside the Silent Circle. They'll Earth Spike him up, and that'll be the kill onto U9. Very unfortunate that they didn't have enough damage there. It was a close call for that Shadow Fiend kill.
Yeah, Stick Charger is going to be the bane of Tongfu's fight there for 164, keeping him alive, and they expend the whole mana pool of U9 trying to bring him down, but he's just able to make it out to the north into the fog, and they end up losing U9 for a big kill going the way of Terrorblade. He was and still is U9 the top net worth holder in the game.
Now, mid lane, looks like they're scouting out onto the Bloodseeker, but a hook shot in the dire jungle will find Zexbingo, and it looks like the line will go down, but in trade, the Clockwork's going to lose his life one way or another. They have a charge coming forward, and they could get this kill pretty much at any time. Long range is going to miss, and are you kidding me? Is Zexbingo really going to live here? He'll turn around for the cogs. That doesn't bounce back Spirit Breaker, even though it probably should, in all honesty. Zexbingo will pop the Battery Assault, trying to run away, and one raise will secure that kill, but he lasted a lot longer than he should have.
This is when you all chat #space for Zexbingo, and either way, U9 pushing into the mid lane alongside Kabu. They should be able to bring down this tier 1. No glyph available to the dire side, and a big rotation over for that Clockwork. So that last hit is going to go U9's way, and he's going to build into that early Bloodstone. It seems already quite a long ways on his way there. Jinq invised up into Shadowwalk, going to pop towards this top lane. Just going to farm safely under his tower for now and not look for any aggression.
As far as Clink's build is concerned, looks like he's going to pick up a Medallion of Courage, and honestly, I really like the medallions on Clinks. They need that extra bit of mana sustain. It's why you see Orchid so popularly on them, and the amount of damage you can pump out with the minus armor from Medallion is ridiculous, especially when you're stacking that with Riptide. It starts to get gross when you're looking at the support's health pools. Up in top lane, the Earthshaker is forced to play very defensively inside the tree line, and even Tango's through a tree. It looks like he's found himself a pretty nice angle, but Tongfu are already kind of flexing their muscles and securing a lot of map control. The Clinks is so aggressive inside the enemy woods, and he can be since there have been several sentries placed down, not only blocking the camps, but making sure that Clinks, for the most part, is undetected.
Yeah, he is going to look for a little bit of aggression here. Blade Mail going to be picked up by the Bloodseeker now, so definitely not the most ideal target.
Bottom
Here,
lane, hook shot.
Zex Bingo going to miss his first hook of the game. He's going to get charged up, but instantly the song going to come out here. Kabu does have the freezing field available. They're going to cog up. It's 164. The freezing field going to drop, and everyone else just going to turn tail and run. Unine going to jump forward. Earn charge going to try and keep him up. He's going to have to pop his rune and zip out to the east from that blood right. The Nether Strike going to come down onto Zex Bingo, but he's still very healthy. Sock's going to have his health pool dropped here despite having the Blade Mail up, and Jin-Q now going to rotate in, bring down the Lion. The Spirit Breaker pincered up and trapped, trying to charge out to the top lane. Cogs from Zex Bingo, valiant attempt, not going to stop that, but 3-0 still going the way of Tongfu in the bot lane.
In all honesty, I think Cog should cancel charge from Spirit Breaker. It makes very little sense. But either way, that's a good fight for Tongfu. They'll take a handful of kills and continue that into a tier 2 tower push. It looked at times like that might have turned around for Terrorblade, especially since the Finger of Death did connect into Unine. He wasn't able to dodge that with Ball Lightning, and they were able to disable the Storm. But that was a very well executed fight by the Storm Spirit. He had just enough mana, or he used his mana very effectively and was able to keep themselves on the outskirts. And immediately after the fact, they're going to take this Ancient stack. This is a big blow to Terrorblade's economy.
Yeah, certainly so, and there's really nothing they can do about it. They're going to jump down and looking to farm up in the lane, but none the wiser that their economy is really taking a hit here. And Sox had picked up that Blade Mail, but everyone's splitting the damage dealt by it on the side of Tongfu, and they'll focus him down effectively. And now they are aware of that pickup as well, so Jin-Q going to be a little bit wiser to that fact and not going to be able to open on that Bloodseeker. Mechanism going to be picked up, I believe, here for the Dire side.
Yeah, it's going to be picked up by the Shadow Fiend, a very important item for the SF this game. Usually it's just standard and you're going to see it normally, but SF needs every bit of armor that he can get, especially since Clinks looks to be going into a Desolator next. That's very scary. Even with the Mechanism armor, he's going to be at absolutely 0, flat out of it, unless he's on Agility Treads, that is. But if you're on Agility Treads, you'll melt just the same.
Yeah, and the Riptide going to come out from the Naga Siren as well, so definitely scary in terms of the effective HP for TB side. We may see a skirmish here, top lane. A1 going to walk up the stairs into his death. No vision available to him. Fish are going to be dropped from the north, only going to land onto Zex Bingo, and the hookshot is available for this Clockwork. Unine currently standing in front of him, though, and they aren't going to look to jump into the fog just yet. They'll just look to secure this tier 1 push off the back of their numbers advantage.
Yeah, oh, looks like a hookshot is going to actually happen on the sidelines. They'll catch out the Bloodseeker. He'll try to get off the Rupture, but he can't through the battery assault. Zex Bingo's dropping low, and with the Requiem and the Nether Strike, they'll be able to get off the clock, but Bloodseeker has already fallen. 164 after popping the Mechanism is pretty survivable. They'll turn around on the Zinc Q, and the Clinks is going to die as well. A double kill for 164. Zip down to the low ground for Unine will keep him alive, but now they'll continue to chase on to Kabu. Looks like they have enough vision, or no. The Crystal Maiden just fades out into the shadows, and she'll be able to live. But honestly, that was a really weird timing for the Clinks to be fighting with level 1 Death Pact. He had hardly any HP to work with. Had he had Death Pact, maybe that's a different story entirely, but a really big turn of events for the Terrorblade team. Finally, they're able to put some map pressure on, get a tier 1.
Yeah, and on top of that, he had just used Shadow Walk as well, so wasn't able to get out.
It's not going to Song. She will. They catch out 3, and they do have the Crystal Maiden ultimate. Clockwork will be Earthspike, and it looks like that Song's not going to set up for much, with the Fissure disengaging as well. Terrorblade should be able to run out to safety.
Yeah, 164 going to be able to make it out to the north. Crystal Maiden only with that 370 MS. Not able to catch up just yet. And Jin-Q going to rotate in from the backlines, look to find any stragglers. Spirit Breaker not the more ideal target. They are going to scout out the Shadow Fiend. The hookshot is available. He's trying to TP out. Zex Bingo will be able to find it, and they bring down the most important target to bring down, who was rotating out of that top lane. Nicely played by Tongfu to get something off the back of what was a good engagement for TB, and now they should find this tier 1 as well. No glyph on the Dire side.
Yeah, the tier 1 really doesn't have much of a chance here. Terrorblade instead just going to look for a little bit of farm on the Bloodseeker down in the bottom lane, and a little bit of space for the Spirit Breaker as well. Even though Tongfu take one fight and immediately after the fact use their Naga Siren Song and don't find anything for it, it still seems like they're the team with momentum. You have a Storm Spirit that's sitting on his 8-charge Bloodstone, and even though he wasn't able to get any charges on that immediately after the fact. Tongfu are getting big items, and the same can't be said for the Terrorblade side. The Bloodseeker was farming in safe lane, has pretty much the same inventory as the Clockwork, give or take a couple of items.
Yeah, Zexbingo has looked really effective all game long, picking up the urn as well. Looking fairly tanky, and he does have 1,200 gold in addition, so maybe picks up a point booster here at the side shop. Looking to go towards that Aghanims. He has made great effect, has made great use of that hook shot. LPC going to be aggressed onto perhaps mid here. They do know the song is down and a little bit low, going to have to back off. The rest of his team coming in from the west, but everyone just doing a little bit of jostling for position in this mid lane.
Looks like Terrorblade will back off and farm some Ancients, but this is entirely spotted out by Radiant Observer Ward. So Tongfu know exactly where everybody is for Terrorblade, and with this intel, they can farm up the enemy woods and they can push into the tier 2 tower in top lane. Even though Xingqiu doesn't have his Desolator completed yet, he's 50 gold short. He's still doing so much damage in the duration of that strafe. Whenever he has Death Pact up, it's quite impressive. Tier 2 tower is going to fall to half HP with really nothing more committed than a little bit of mana on the Clinks. They'll charge for it onto the Storm Spirit, but U9 is way too deep for them to convincingly go for him. But Kabu, maybe they'll catch the Crystal Maiden. They'll cancel a charge, another strike straight into 4 CM. With the Urn charge and the follow-up there, they should be able to easily dispatch her, and they will. But the Clinks and Storm Spirit looks like they'll be able to make a clean retreat. It's the price that Tongfu have to pay for the tower damage they got top.
A little bit of a consolation prize coming TB's way. It does cause, as has in most situations in this game, a full 5-man rotation from them. So either way, they are finding farm on the other members of the team. It's going to be a full mechanism for LPC's Naga Siren here, and that's going to help out the team fight of Tongfu, equalizing the mech over on the Dire side.
Yeah, it's actually pretty impressive that Naga Siren has found so much space this game. And there's your Desolator delivered out to the Clinks. Tongfu still have the tools that they need to go aggressive, and Naga Siren, although she doesn't really want to use the song until she has level 11, has it available yet again. So if Tongfu find somebody out of position, find somebody to pick off with the Clockwork and Storm, the towers should fall very quickly after the fact. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they go for a smoke rotation either directly for kills or into Roche.
Yeah, I worry for a bit for the firepower of TB's side as well. Spiritbreaker hasn't found much out of the offlane, just an Urn Embracer for him. It seems like it's going to be a BKB build for Sox. And Xingqiu spotted briefly by that Dire Observer Ward, but able to rotate around to the east.
Yeah, no follow-up there. He's going to walk down. The charge is going in top lane. U9 will be able to zip out to safety, uses a lot of his mana, but now the Spirit Breaker is going to be going in alone. He has the charge and the Nether Strike. Will force U9 to use the rest of his mana pool, but honestly, that's such a huge rotation away by the Terrorblade side that Roshan is now completely open if Tongfu could get their Clinks into the pit. And Xingqiu, I think he can just take this one outright. He drops it so fast.
Yeah, and they really can afford U9 to make this much space with the Arcane Aura and the Bloodstone available to him. He's pretty much at full mana pool already. So with the Medallion and the Deso, as you mentioned, Roche not long for this world, and it'll be easily taken by Tongfu, as well as getting that tier 2 in the top lane.
Yeah, this is a pretty big deal. Terrorblade, they're losing map objectives left and right. Honestly, something needs to change in the near future if they want to really find a footing back in this game. They're currently more than 10,000 net worth behind, and although the experience advantage is a little bit less substantial, it's still there for the Tongfu team. The Dire supports especially are suffering. You'd love to have a Blink Dagger on your Earthshaker or your Lion, but neither of them are close.
Yeah, it feels like they're really relying on these BKBs, but even by the time those two come out for the SF and the Bloodseeker, it feels like Zexbingo is going to have an Aghanims right around that same timing window. He's got only 2k to go till that full Aghanims, and the hookshot going to be very useful in these engagements to stop up the Requiem and even lock down this Bloodseeker, who really relies on his mobility with the Thirst stacks.
Yeah, Tier 2 tower in mid is going to be under pretty heavy siege, and the Clinks isn't involved in this in any way. And oh, he caught out poor Lion. 2 shots aren't enough. Survives on 20 HP. They need just a little bit more damage earn, and unfortunately, Lion, you are dead. They'll drop an Earth Spike before he falls, but that's sick that Clinks can drop 2 shots and that's a kill. Oh, the hook shot in. They catch out the Spirit Breaker, or the Shadow Fiend, excuse me, inside the base after killing the Spirit Breaker. 164 can do nothing. The battery's still ticking, and Clockwork might get this one solo, although they'll turn around with the Requiem as well as the Echo Sun. But Zexbingo trying for the TP, that'll be cancelled by an Enchant Totem, and finally the Clockwork will go down. But my goodness, that took them a lot longer than it probably should have.
Yeah, they do have to expend the Exo Slam as well. Definitely worth keeping the Shadow Fiend alive, but Zexbingo finally falling. Does dive a little deep. Still, it gives them space to find this tier 2 mid. And TB now with the Requiem and the Echo Slam down, not really in fighting shape, despite being having that Clockwork dead. Unai going to jump bot towards Socks, and he will find him out before he can even get the Blood right or the Blade Mail off. And easy pick going Tongfu's way, still aggressing without their Clockwork.
Yeah, and U9, he almost has his completed Orchid. This is scary, very scary for the Terrorblade team. He just needs 100 gold, and after this creep wave, we'll have it, and enough for a TP as well. Although that is on cooldown, it doesn't seem to matter. Tongfu's map control this game is impressive, and oh, Shadow Fiend, you're being stalked by an Invis Clinks, and he's going to open up with the Medallion 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's a dead SF.
Yeah, easy kills for Jin Q. The Medallion and the Deso doing a lot of work. As you mentioned earlier, Shadow Fiend just not nearly enough armor to be able to mitigate that damage. A1 gonna miss an Earth Spike up the hill into the fog, and Kabu and LPC still pressuring in this mid lane as two supports 23 minutes into this one, and 16-9 certainly doesn't feel like the game is as close as that kill score indicates. 15k net worth lead for Tongfu right now at about 10k for inexperience.
Mid lane, they'll throw a silence out into LPC, but the follow-up just isn't there. Tongfu have almost completely constrained Terrorblade to their base already. Take a look at their vision. They have some up in top, but at the moment, farming out in mid and bottom is almost a death sentence, and their true sight status, there's only one sentry on that high ground. They have no idea where this Clinks is roaming. They might catch a glimpse of Zinq here, but this Clinks now has a Blink Dagger on top of all of the other items that he's accrued this game.
Yeah, so with Zexbingo being able to reliably initiate as he has this Blink Dagger positioning tool for Jin Q should be great. Unai going to jump in. There's a hook shot as well. It's going to land onto Socks' Bloodseeker. Requiem going to be channeled onto the low ground, but it doesn't do a whole lot of anything. Freezing Field going to be dropped by Kabu as well. SF, Lion, Spearbreaker all dead, and even LPC surviving with a sliver of health here towards the mid lane. Only a buyback available for the Lion, and with this... Oh, U9 going to jump forward. They're going to find more here. Earthshaker going to fall, but with the Deso, they're going to be able to bring down these structures very quickly, and TB just going to tap out in this game one of a best of two here, and Tongfu looking just as sharp in this second series of the day as they did in the first.
Yeah, really crisp performance coming out from them. There was never a time in this game that it felt like Terrorblade were comfortable going out on the map. There were maybe a couple of fights where they traded evenly, but that was about as good as they could have hoped for. Honestly, Tongfu are looking really strong, and let's see if Terrorblade have it in them to take game number 2 off of them.
Yep, Tongfu now 7-3 overall and secured that third spot. So second game coming up here, guys. Last game of the day for Tongfu. 2 best of 2s coming your way after this as well.